And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My returning guests are Joy Kingsborough and Matt Kahn. And for those of you that didn't see them last time, Joy is a Channeler of Jonah, best-selling author and spiritual teacher. Matt is also an author, spiritual teacher, highly tuned empathic healer, and universally known as the I love you guy, which is perfect because being the I love you guy brings us right into the subject of divine partnerships. And for Joy, I mean, that's pretty amazing that you hooked up with the I love you guy.
Right? I think I definitely scored on that one.
Oh.
It's funny for me, in the very beginning of doing this podcast, I couldn't get any paranormal guests. So I got a ton of dating coaches. And I thought they were great podcasts, but for some reason they just didn't get traffic. And I guess different personalities resonate in different subjects. And for some reason, my personality didn't resonate with those. But I think it's going to do great today because we have spirituality mixed in with relationships.
Yeah.
That's right. Why have a normal relationship when you can have a paranormal relationship?
Yeah. So what is your working definition of a divine partnership?
Well, I think we'll probably both add a bit to this, but for us, divine partnership is about the harmony of our relationship with the divine through different aspects of life. So while we're in divine union, there is divine partnership, which is a way we approach our experience in the world, the way we approach our relationship personally with four different aspects of the world, right? So whether we're in relationship in a way that is sacred or whether we're in a relationship in a way that is more transactional, or what am I getting from that? I think divine partnership opens us up to, are we experiencing that, a relationship with others, with life, with the divine itself, and with ourselves, with our own bodies? How are we experiencing that? Are we experiencing that from a divine aspect, a spiritual aspect? Are we experiencing that through the lens of something we can get, right?
Yeah.
What would you add to that?
I would say that, both of us have been on our own individual journeys for most of our lives, and we've been teaching separately before we even met. And that our divine partnership, what I would say divine partnership is not just the opportunity for two people in a relationship to work on their wounds or to trigger each other's traumas, but it's the partnership that when you come together, you both naturally bring out of each other all of the spiritual alignment that you've been cultivating on your journey up to a certain point. And so when I look at our partnership as a divine union or a divine partnership, it really is a celebration of my alignment with spirit and her alignment with spirit being in relationship. It's as if two hearts become one, but the space in which our two hearts have merged into one is the environment and dimension of spirit. So everything that we do, whether we're working together, whether we're making dinner, whether it's a serious conversation or just being playful, everything between us is always an expression and an experience of being one with spirit that we both had separately that is now amplified infinitely as we've come together.
Yeah.
When I think of a divine partnership, I kind of think of it in a religious context and how people will put the divine or God or Jesus first before their own partnership. Would you say you guys do that, or it's an equal partnership, together and divine as one?
It feels like it's with rather than first.
Right.
So everything is in harmony. And because of, I think, I'll speak personally, but I think the sense is that I am part of the divine, right? I'm an extension of that. And so I don't personify the divine as being something separate from myself. Therefore, it doesn't need to be first. And so the devotion I have to my spiritual experience, to my connection as a divine being, that is first, but it's also at the same time as it is the divinity that flows through this relationship. So it's very harmonious in my experience.
Absolutely. And I think that, there's many ways to look at it. From a religious perspective, you put the divine first. From that context, it's usually from the context of people defining themselves as, I'm nothing better than my ego, and I have to put the divine first so I can be in alignment with the highest virtues of spirit. From our experience of being one with the divine and expressions of the divine, our relationship with and as divinity is actually putting our relationship first. So, for example, when we're making a decision, we're both bringing different perspectives of which option puts we versus I first. So when we're making decisions, it's not Matt saying, here's what this I wants. She's saying, here's what this I wants. And we're going to negotiate like kids trying to trade candy at Halloween. Here's a Snickers, give me 2 Reese's peanut butter cups. We are both, from our perspectives, invested in what is best for we. And what we have discovered is that when we are making decisions based on what is good for we, which is the unity of spirit, both of our eyes are more fulfilled than the times in our life when we are just focused on I. And so it's not 2 eyes trying to dance and compromise and be in coordination. It is 2 unique perspectives that are both working to preserve and enhance this divine creation called we.
Yeah.
And so that, for me, is what divine union is about. We are cultivating and creating a relationship with spirit that is decorated as our partnership and soon to be our marriage.
Yeah.
Most of us have a lifetime of baggage and trauma. Do we need to heal that first before we can even recognize that someone could be my divine partner?
It's a great question. What I would say is that there is an idea, there's an assumption in many spiritual schools of thought that I have to heal my baggage, because if I have baggage or if I have trauma and I don't have a partner, that must be what's in the way. It's an assumption, deductive reasoning. And so I'm working on healing my wounds, which we should all work on healing our wounds, but of course, not from a transactional standpoint of I'm trying to heal my wounds to get this person to come faster. What I will say is that we're always in our lives in a process of healing wounds. We might have space between healing, but it's really throughout an entire lifetime that we're healing, we're remembering. And I think that the idea, when people have the idea that they have to heal everything first, and then they think they've already healed it first, then they meet someone, and then something comes up, and they go, I already healed it, and it becomes this big shock. I think that there are things that we can heal on our own. I think there are things that we can heal in partnership. And so I think everything heals at a specific amount of time. But what I will say, just to add some context to this, is instead of people thinking you have to heal everything to attract a partnership, I think what we've both realized is that there's a way to live your life in divine partnership before your partner even arrives in material form. And it's actually a way that you're calling that partner into your life. So while I wouldn't say you have to heal your wounds at lightning speed first, there is a way to start living in divine partnership even before that person enters your reality. And I think that's more of the important point. What would you add to that?
Absolutely. Because I think there are things that you can't predict all of the things that will arise in your life as you move forward. And there are things that will only arise when you're in partnership. But the pathway and the willingness to grow, becoming someone who grows, becoming someone who is, like you said, in divine partnership with ourselves.
Yes.
That creates the environment that when you come into a divine partnership with your love, with your beloved, then you're able to focus on growth together rather than being triggered together all the time, right? So we're not triggering each other. We're in a state of continual growth where we notice when there are moments of growth that are possible individually or together, and we support that growth. So we laid the foundation for that.
And just briefly, or just to add on to that really quickly, instead of seeing it like, because we don't really experience it like we trigger each other, but we really experience it as, here's something that's coming up to be healed, to be loved, and it's going to create more space for our love to grow and to blossom and to expand. And so the excitement for us is, yeah, I didn't expect today to feel this feeling of when I was 8 years old, or she didn't expect to feel whatever. But, you know, like in the beginning of our relationship, we had a moment of feeling a little scared, and we said to each other, let's be scared together. And so the beauty is that whether it's unearthing a wound you may not have thought about for so many years, or whether it's going out on a date, every moment that we spend connected is quality time, and we're just making more room for our love to grow and expand within us.
Do you think you have to be the way of thinking that you don't need a divine partner? You're just focusing on your own spiritual growth, and then you will attract it? Because if you're just trying to manifest it, it's not going to happen.
It's a great question. It was actually part of where I was when she and I met. I was in a period of my life where I had healed so much of my conditioning. I was coming out of a 5-year cycle of being challenged to heal some of the deepest themes in my life. And I was coming out the other end, feeling the best I've ever felt in my life. Felt like I was teaching from the deepest place. And I felt, I felt incredible, as I always feel different shades of incredible. And I remember saying to myself before I went to the event where she and I met, I was saying to myself, laughing, going, there's no way I'm going to be in a relationship right now. I feel so good. I sleep in the center of my bed doing snow angels. My life is simple. My life is incredible. And I came to a place of realizing I don't need a partner. I don't know that I want a partner. And if someone approached me from that standpoint, I doubt it would, I would even take it seriously. That was the place I was in 24 hours before we even met. Now, do I think that that's what caused it to manifest? I don't. I think it's helpful, because I think being detached versus obsessive, I think, is helpful. When you're obsessive, you're going to kind of live your life like a casting director, where every single person you meet, right? The clerk at the store, are they my soulmate? Right? The person making me my latte, wait, they stared at me for 2 seconds longer. Are they the one? And you literally go around your life obsessively, like a casting director, auditioning people for the role you're trying to fit someone into. So when you're detached, you're not doing that. You're focused on your own wholeness. But what I can say that I believe is more of what brought joy into my life, and we both have different stories of this. From my perspective, I went through an experience, an initiation of profound detachment. And in that detachment, I was taken through an experience of, I'm whole, I'm the most whole I've ever been, and I'm ready to love as the way I always knew I was meant to love. But I was brought through an experience of, if I love again, this is going to be a love in human form, which means it's going to start. In some way, it's going to end. And I was actually walked through a very incredible experience of actually fully processing the death of a beloved partner before they even entered my life, to be in the space of detachment, to be able to appreciate the relationship, to not make anything about the relationship about myself, and to be in a place that if I'm going to really show up authentically and really bring my best to a relationship, I was asked to purge the end of the relationship and process the loss and the death of the relationship before I even knew she even existed. And I got to this place of, I don't even know if I need a partner. I'm in such a state of fulfillment. And then I went to an event and she and I met. And because I was in a place of embodying what I'll call husbandhood, I was already a husband with where my wife was one with my heart. She just hadn't materialized in form. And I wasn't open to talking to women who would approach me because I was one with my wife and I was living as husband. And when we met, we literally met, and it felt for both of us as if we're already in a relationship. And so I find that to be more compelling, where I processed the end of us before I even knew there was an us. And it brought me to such a state of fulfillment that it allowed me to be able to love as I've never loved before, and without a fear of anything taking it away.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating that you talked about processing the end of a relationship, because I think most people never process that.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that before you add your experience of discernment, I think if you process the end before it begins or as it begins, and it's, again, that's not the lightest subject matter, but if two people can work through the end, either before individually or together in the beginning, then what the relationship can be is actually your best foot forward. So many people will say, God, if I only knew it was that short-lived, or how come I couldn't get out of my way? How come I couldn't get out of my anxieties? How come I couldn't just be my best? Because inevitably, the loss of a relationship, most of the time, if you really peel the layers of grief, yes, there is the loss of the person that's no longer there. That's absolutely valid. But underneath is this very subtle regret of, if I knew it was only going to be that short-lived, why couldn't I have brought the best of me to the table? Why could have I just enjoyed it for what it was going to be? Why couldn't have I seen it as a roller coaster and put my hands in the air and just screamed for the enjoyment of it? And so when we processed the death before we even met each other, which was something we were both walked through, it allowed us to meet each other without attachment and without a fear of loss. And therefore, everything in our partnership is just benefit, just gain, just fulfillment. We're gonna.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, there was a period of time in my life when I needed to move through the detachment as well. And so I was quite detached, and in fact, got to the place where I didn't, for quite some time, didn't believe I would have the love of my life. I didn't believe that my soulmate or divine partnership or divine union existed. And so I had gotten to a place of detachment where I was choosing partners that were less than what I really wanted. So I was choosing partners that weren't healthy for me. And I know a lot of people can relate to that, where we choose someone who's, love the one you're with, was sort of what I had, this message I had in my head. And I would make compromises for people. I would make compromises for behavior. And I would get into relationships that I had so much work to do with. There was so much karmic baggage, so much of this pain and challenge that we were constantly working on things together, but we weren't growing together. And so for me, when I had gotten out of my last relationship, I decided that I was going to be really clear about who it is that I want, what kind of experience that I want to have. And I would be clear that I only want to be in relationship with the one, and that I was willing to open my heart up. So I did heart opening work for myself, where I opened up to, I'm going to open my heart up. If he exists, then that's who I'm going to be with. That I don't need to be with anyone else. I don't need to be with almost. I don't want to do this growth anymore. I've healed so many things. And so I had let go completely, but I also was getting very clear. I was getting clear about, how would I recognize the one? And I started to realize that recognizing the one would be a feeling. It would be that sense, I think, similar to what you were saying, Matt, of, I started to feel what it was like to be with my beloved. And I was in relationship with Matt before I met him. I was already the wife. And so as I would date other men, I would come into conversation with them and realize I don't feel this feeling. I don't feel the way I would, even if they were extraordinary. I could tell they weren't my husband. And so instead of waiting for maybe he'll turn out to be him, maybe it will grow into that, maybe we'll fall in love, I just ended the relationships, and I would do it right away, knowing, because I didn't want to cheat on my husband. I wanted to be monogamous. Like, that was really important to me, that I was present and available. I didn't want to be with someone else when I met him. And so I started to get signals a couple of months before we met. We would giggle. I heard the name Matt. I didn't know who he was going to be. I had no idea it was Matt, but I would hear the name, and I was getting the whisper, and my heart was opening. And I became very intentional that, okay, I feel you coming. And I became more open. My heart started to open even more, that I was willing to be in conversation and to notice and to really, I think, discern who was in front of me. I wasn't eager for every single one to be him, but I was ready. And the moment I met him, I knew. It was very instant for both of us.
Yeah.
Besides the feeling, are there any other ways to recognize that this person may be your divine partner?
For me, I'll say that there was a feeling, but there was also a general sense of comfort. I didn't feel the anxiety that I felt meeting other people, or that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm so attracted that I can't speak.
Right.
I was so attracted that I couldn't wait to speak. I was attracted on so many levels. It was physical, it was emotional. There was a space between us where I couldn't wait to know everything about him. So we began dating instantly.
Yeah, I mean, when we met, the entire room disappeared, and it was just this, oh, hello kind of situation moment for me. What I would say, if I gave a radical answer, because a lot of people, I think there's two ways to look at this. There's how the ego likes to date, and there's how the soul likes to date. So the soul says, or the ego says, I keep leaning in and putting people in the position of my beloved until I know they're not. Right? The ego says yes, even if it's an I don't know, until it's a no for sure. And then by the time you say no, someone's already been in a role they might be used to. They feel rejected. It's a lot of hurt. The soul says, and the soul's journey is a little bit more, it takes a little bit more focus and attention. The soul says, if it's I don't know, I don't move into intimacy until it's a yes.
Right.
So the ego says yes to intimacy until it's a no, and then has to perceive the other person as a villain in order to untangle what we've created. But the soul says, if I don't know, if you hear that statement, I don't know, we hear a no in it. We don't hear a yes. It's not I don't yes, it's I don't know. So I don't know means red light for me. I would meet people, I'd meet single women, and there'd be resonance. And they would say, oh, I'd like to explore this. And I would say, I don't feel as if it's meant to be a partnership with my wife. And if I know that you're not meant to be my wife on a journey, I'm not going to put anyone in that position, out of respect to your future partner and out of respect to my wife that I'm not going to cheat on. And that was the commitment I made to living as Joy's husband before I knew Joy was my wife. And so if it's an I don't know, it stays platonic. It only crosses over into romance once it's a yes. And there are a lot of people that would feel the fear of missing out or loneliness if they live that way. But if they actually tried that adjustment, they would realize loneliness isn't about not having someone to share your life with. Loneliness is actually expressing the right feelings in the wrong connections. And so that becomes a big revelation. If we change the way we relate before we're in partnership, if we change the way we relate as we're getting to know people, it actually changes the experiences we have before partnership and in partnership. And I think that's a really big part of what we want to bring to this really big conversation of divine partnership. And even looking at the fact that we look at their 4 quadrants, 4 pillars of divine partnership. And Joy and I naturally were living in those 3 other pillars before we met each other. We were in divine partnership with our body. We were in divine partnership with the universe. We were in divine partnership with our environment. And the last pillar was divine partnership in your romantic connections. And so she and I had those alignments, and then we met each other. And I think a lot of times in relationship, people are living like single people. They're putting everyone in the most intimate position until it's a no. And they're waiting until they meet the special person to start developing those other pillars. And if we develop those pillars first, we can be in divine partnership with life, and then we can experience the highest potential of our soul, and then experience the true fulfillment of what romantic connection or divine union may offer us.
Do you feel that for everybody, or at least most people, having a divine partnership is something that we should experience, or I guess have, before we move on to the next existence?
I think that it's part of reaching I think it is absolutely a piece of reaching our highest potential. I think our highest potential as humans here is us being in divine partnership and then coming into divine union. And I do believe that's a part of our pathway. Now, how that's experienced, that may be nuanced for everyone. It may not include the same kind of divine union that Matt and I have in our relationship, but those pillars we're talking about, that ability to be in divine partnership, that is how we ascend. That's how we evolve. That's how we expand and grow and get all that we came here to get and all that we came to give into this space, is a requirement of a divine partnership.
Yeah, and I would add on to that some people will hear that statement and think, oh, if I'm not in an ideal romantic connection, then I'm not going to be able to evolve, or they feel judged. But because divine partnership is one with the divine in body, environment, and in all connections, whether it's platonic or whether it's romantic. There are some people whose divine partnership is with the animal kingdom, and they may be the perfect home to raise animals or rescue animals. So we embody a type of divine partnership that a lot of people want, and they want it because it's what we're meant to experience in this earth plane. But it always must be stated that there are so many different types of divine partnership, that really the bigger conversation is, we are here on this earth plane to remember our divinity, to reconnect with the divine, and to allow this body to be a space where the highest partnership with divinity is explored and expanded for the benefit of how that helps the world evolve. Will that be platonic? Will that be romantic? Will that be between you and your body, you and the world? Will it be all of those? Will it be only one of those? It's unique for every single person. And that's important to really, take away in this type of conversation, that when you come into divine partnership on all the other levels, it creates a frequency where you call towards yourself a person who can reflect your own light back to you in a very meaningful, fulfilling way. At the same time, there are very specific journeys of the soul where sometimes seeing a world of divine partnership is because you're going to attract that in this lifetime, or it's preparing you for the one you're going to have in the next lifetime, or you experience having that, and there's an unfortunate death in the family, and you feel like the divine partnership has, ascended, and there's all these different nuances to it. But the truth is, no matter how you cultivate love, because love is the fragrance of divine partnership and form, no matter how it changes, no matter how close or far away anyone seems, whether you've loved and lost, or whether you are grieving the loss of your partner that you haven't met yet, that you're questioning that you might not ever meet, the love within us, no matter how the scenes come and go, the love always stays alive in our hearts. And so we develop divine partnership to be one with love, no matter how the play ebbs and flows.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because for some reason I was only under the impression that divine partnerships were romantic relationships, but also it could be employee relationships, friends, and many other things.
Yeah.
Right. And I think when we say divine partnership, we're talking about not transactional relationships. Transactional relationships is the the imbalanced connections we're in as we feel used by others, use others, or take turns using each other's for some sort of benefit that our egos imagine. So divine partnership is where we engage in connections where we practice celebrating the divine in the form of others and ourselves and vice versa. So in our life, we have a very close-knit family network of friends. We both spend time serving the world. And what became the gravity that brought us together is that both of us are two people where all aspects of our lives are divine partnership, just because that's just what works. That's just what makes sense. At a certain point, it's the only kind of relationship you can have. And so divine partnership, although very popular and very seductive, very newsworthy to talk about from a romantic standpoint, and we can talk all day about how incredible it is when you are in that kind of alignment. The truth is that you can have that type of connection with divinity at any level of interaction. And so we would never want anyone to miss out on the type of fulfillment they can have just by waiting for one area to be fulfilled. And because we didn't wait for that one area to be fulfilled, it put us in the position of being able to be fulfilled by each other. And we both had an entire lifetime of waiting, looking, yearning, mistaking other people for that energy. And again, it's about our relationship with the divine. And there's so many levels of it so that we don't have to wait for romance or the perfect partner in order to be one with the love of spirit.
I think that's the key is because you asked about it from this perspective, do we need to do this? Is this part of it? To me, it really is evolutionary, because what we're saying in divine partnership is to move from, the namaste of I see the divine in you and you see the divine in me, is to embody it, to live it. And that's the evolutionary leap. That's the why we're here, is to stop seeing ourselves as separate and transactional, like you said, but actually live the connection of our oneness. And to do that, the desire for relationship or the desire for closer friendships or families, that serves as a conduit or a pathway for us to choose to live in that alignment with the divine, to accept that there is a divine something happening here, that to ignore that this is a spiritual world. There are things going on that we can't see, but to deny that, I think, stops us from really fulfilling our highest potential. I think we have to lean into that, surrender into that, live it, embody it. And that's what our path opened us up to. We wanted divine union, but it caused us to be in divine relationship, which caused us to be the living embodiment of the divinity that we had been seeking. We allowed it to be our life story. Mm-hmm. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Quite a few of my guests will say that we are all one, just split into billions or trillions of pieces. If you believe that, how does that relate to divine partnerships?
It's a perfect question. Really love that. And I think that there's a couple different differences. There are people that believe all is one because they're drawn towards a remembrance of spirit that might seem distantly out of memory or focus. There are people that experience all as one and they realize, oh, this is actually a living reality, but one has to be adept to that dimension. It almost feels like a hidden dimension within the dimension. But just to make this more of the grounded conversation, because when you hear us talk about divine partnership, some people, spiritual people, think that means that we wake up every morning and I go, I see the God in you, you see the God in me, right? She's making a sandwich. Hey, God, how you doing? And people honestly sometimes don't know there's more to it than that. And so when we're in divine partnership, that means that in the oneness of our connection, there is a relationship called we. Two individuals make up the we called I. Now, in an unconscious relationship, there's two I's trying to coordinate, trying to cooperate, trying to collaborate, to not rock the boat and not piss each other off. And their two I's are trying to get along in a house called we. In our partnership, our I experience is us bringing all of our I talents and abilities to serve the relationship of we. So, for example, if I need something or if she has a desire, we're not thinking of it from the perspective of whether I do or I don't. We're automatically thinking about how does this benefit the relationship of us. And when I talk about us being in divine partnership with other people in our lives, our families, our friends, people that we work with in our professional lives, our teams, the people we serve, naturally, Joy and I both think of it from the perspective of when we make decisions, when people ask us things, or whatever it is in our relationships, even platonic relationships, we're always thinking about what decisions, what choices are actually serving the relationship, not what's benefiting I or what's taking away from I. So whether it's our romantic relationship or whether it's a platonic relationship or a business relationship, when we're in business partnership, when we're in platonic relationship, we're still in a relationship. And so we're thinking about how must I be? What can I contribute? What needs to happen for the mutual preservation and expansion of the relationship? What's best for us? Some people in the world only think about, well, I only care about the us if I'm in a relationship, if I like them that day. What if that actually becomes the way we learn to relate to every human being? If I have someone walk up on the street I've never met before that asks me to sign a petition, whether I do or I don't, I'm still respecting them. I'm asking about their day because I value the relationship called us. Even if they don't have an awareness that there is an us, for me, there's always an us. And that's what divine partnership and oneness is really about, is that we always serving us. And so if I go to a family function and I'm not interacting with people who play by the same rules, if I am serving us and they are asleep in their separate I, they're the one that's going to have the least redeemable experience. I'm going to have the most fulfilling experience because I'm bringing divinity into the moment and I'm serving the divine through partnership, no matter how anyone else chooses to be. And that's the radical step of this. And I think that's what we learn in divine romantic partnership is if the way we engage in divine partnership is so juicy and radical without treating everyone like a romantic partner, what if we actually started relating to other people as we are each serving the relationship of us? And how does that change how we view people? How does it change how people perceive us? How does that change the world around us? That's the radical invitation of this.
I'm assuming that your relationship still sometimes has struggles and problems just like everybody else's. How do you guys handle those compared to people who are not in a divine partnership?
Well, I think it goes to what Matt was just saying. We do see it as we, so it's not something that we are doing to each other. If something happens within one of our individual experiences, we have that experience, but it's still we. So we perceive it through the lens of this is something that's happening through us, with us. It's in our experience. And how do we want to navigate that? So we come together, I think, truly in partnership with that experience, rather than feeling like, oh, my partner had this thing that occurred or did this thing I don't like. It's in our relationship, something arose, something unfolded, something happened that surprised me or I wasn't aware of. And now we have an opportunity for a conversation. So I think because we're based on the us of this, there is no, I think it comes back to what you said about the one and then the individual aspects of us. There's an individual perception of our relationship, but there isn't an individual relationship. It is, so while it might be happening, something might be happening to my right hand, my left hand is still impacted by it. My body is impacted by the things happening. So what's happening for Matt even if it's something that we're not comfortable with, or I'm like, I wish, that wasn't happening. It creates this opportunity, but it's still something happening for us, through us, with us. I don't perceive him as separate, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Just even just an example. Let's say she's not feeling well, hypothetically.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a codependent person anymore, although I was raised to be a very high level codependent being. But if she doesn't feel well, that doesn't mean, well, that's your experience and go lay down and I'm going to go watch ESPN and text me if you need anything. Nor does it mean you don't feel well, so I'm on the ground writhing in pain until you feel better. It's she doesn't feel well, so this is an experience we are going to have. And my desire is, what can I do to serve you in this moment? Can I make you food? Can I serve you? Can I draw you a bath? What can I do to serve you? And even if you need space, just let me know. Perfect example. Let's say we had plans to go to something that Joy was really excited about. We were both excited about. And I wake up one day and I'm going through an energetic upgrade, and we both go through these things together. And it's one of those upgrades where it just makes it hard for me to be in public. I just need to be at home. I need to be wrapped in a blanket. I need to just go through my little, what can feel like, energetic flu. Feels like the flu, but it's an energetic upgrade. And I remember this happening. And I remember saying to her, I'm so sorry that I'm not feeling well enough to go with you. And I would say to her, part of me wants to disregard my experience to give you the experience I know you're excited about. Part of me feels bad that I'm not showing up for you, or that you see me as less than because I'm not the version of myself we both expected to be for this, and we're going to miss this experience. Or if you want to go by yourself, whatever it is, and I feel bad. But I'm able to vulnerably let her know, hey, this is the experience I'm having, and I'm letting you know so it can be a part of our process, just as anything else is. So if one of us is feeling one way, it becomes an experience we have together, and back and forth, no matter what comes up for us. Hey, I'm not feeling well, and I'm feeling like I'm disappointing you, and I'm not the perfectionist I was trained to be, and my inner child thinks you secretly hate me, and I should help you pack your suitcase so you can move out and leave me, or whatever it is. And I share that. And she responds naturally in a way where she's able to fall in love with the deeper part of me that I have the courage to share, and vice versa. And so anything that comes up is not taking away from our relationship, no matter what our egos can, in the moment, bring up in our experience. It's literally something we're going to get through together. In the same way that if I was going to sit down to watch, a UFC show, which, or wrestling or whatever,
You might do that.
which I do all the time. And she says, oh, hey, what if we just cleared out the garage? I will get up, I will go with her, and I will clear out the garage, and we treat it like we're on a date called clearing out the garage, and I'm sure I could watch my show later. This is the priority, and it's where I want to be. It's not like I'm grinning and bearing it. It's not like I'm enduring it. It's not like I'm thinking like an old school guy of, okay, honey, I'll help you clear out the garage, but you got to pay me back later. Like, it's literally just what is good for us. And what is good for us is good for each of us individually. And I think because we come from that place, there can be ups and downs in our own individual experience, but it doesn't have to be tumultuous. It can just be something we're going to move through together.
Yeah. I think what it might be different than a relationship I would have before I understood this divine partnership is that I would plead my case or try to get my way. I would be in my own separate experience. And so I would want to convince him to clean the garage rather than say, hey, if we've got a couple of hours, we could do this. What do you feel? We look at it from the place of it's for our best interest. It naturally the truth naturally arises from that perspective rather than please do this or no, I want to do this. There's no negotiation ever.
Yeah. And sometimes I bring it up and she brings it up and whatever, it all gets done, but it really is just such a beautiful dance.
Do you find that being in a divine partnership the thought of, hey, I need to work on this relationship comes far less often, if not even at all.
Not at all. I've never thought about working on our relationship.
Like, honey, let's sit down and work on us. And I think here's the interesting thing about that phrase, work on, or doing the work, right? Doing the work. I'm doing the work. What are you doing? I'm doing the work. I think doing the work is catching up and trying to better yourself when growing is not a natural everyday occurrence. We naturally grow with each other every day. So I think sometimes doing the work is bringing into view what has been taken out of you by distractions, or, ooh, I don't want to look at that right now. I'll put it under the bed and I'll do this instead. Because growing is something we both love doing without being obsessive about it, because we love to grow, we love to find deeper levels of expansion. We love to stretch ourselves and try things we've never done. We're not afraid to look vulnerable. We're not afraid to do something that we might not be good at. We might be great at it. We might completely suck at it. But we love growing. And so in our lives individually, we didn't have activities that for us was the fun that growing could take away from.
Right.
And so for us, there's not a lot to work on because we're just too busy growing together. And in that growth is an enjoyment that everything else rotates around. Whereas in most relationships, everything else rotates around an inevitability of growth that people deny, delay, or avoid.
Yeah.
You both are successful in different parts of spirituality. Joy is a channeler, and you have been doing other things. Now that you're working together, how is that working out? Or what are you guys doing now working together as spiritual teachers?
Well, we're both channels. I mean, I channel, universal love. And my main guide is a being named Melchizedek, who looks like Gandalf the Wizard and who was the teacher of Jesus. It's just that when I channel, it's not Matt getting out of the way and another being coming through. And Joy channels a being named Jonah. And so what's interesting is that, on paper, you could say, well, we have these different abilities. She's a master numerologist. But I have all my things. But what's interesting is what we have found energetically is we're actually tapping into the same frequencies in the quantum field. So when we work together, I can literally feel us both connected to the same battery source. And we're both watching each other, just know when to take turns. Oh, Matt's meant to talk. Matt will stop and she will then take over. And we're watching that it's the same frequencies dancing through both of us. And when we work together, we've done readings together. We have private clients together. We're soon going to take the stage and do events together. When we work together, what I've experienced is both of our abilities are expanded and enhanced, and it becomes so much more extraordinarily easier to do our work in a more profound way. Like, we both are very good at what we do individually, but together there's a smoothness, there's a succinctness, there's a elegance. And the way I've described it is that Joy has a talent of channeling frequencies from the quantum, from the universe into people's bodies. And I help those frequencies move out into the quantum field. And so it's like we're both working together to create this energetic form of alchemy.
Yeah, I would say that as we're working, one of the things that I love that has emerged, similar to when we met, and it was this knowing.
Yeah.
When we met, we started to create this field between us where our partnership became something that was in this quantum field. So it's as if we're in this space. So I perceive it very much like we're in this space and information is moving between us. But one of the things that happens for us in this divine union, I think will happen for a lot of other people who come into divine union this way, The benefit is that I get to lead while I have a harmonious experience of my masculine and feminine energies in my body. I can lead with the feminine. So I can really lean into the feminine without going so far away from the harmony that's needed for a client. And Matt can really lead with the masculine without going so far away from the feminine, which is so important for the client. So we bring this harmony, but it's amplified because we get to be so full on in those frequencies. So when you think about that from like a otherworldly perspective, it allows us to tap into or listen to our channels in a way that feels hyper tuned in. Like we get this antenna that now seems to beacon out further. We're receiving more deeply together, and we broadcast further together. And we've both noticed that our ability to really move our work out in succinct ways has expanded together. And so we're bringing that to clients. We're bringing that in the work that we're going to be doing on stage, the books we will write. We're currently writing one book together, and the ability to be able to help others come into harmony with those 4 pillars. We can do that because we're embodying it from a masculine and a feminine leadership that is harmonized uniquely in our individual selves, but together in the field that we create. So we bring something that feels very holistic. We're able to see something that I think is very difficult for one individual to see in their own experience when they're working with people.
And I think, because as individuals, each human being has a feminine and a masculine energy, polarity inside of them. We each have masculine and feminine. And in that, there's just one of the two that expresses itself in a little bit more of a dominant way. And so my divine masculine allows Joy to really anchor her divine feminine. We both have masculine and feminine. And even if you think of it as the masculine is the mind and the feminine is the heart, and we have people in this world that are in relationships on a variety of levels, in any kind of partnership, when those energies come together, one will represent the mind of the universe and one will represent the heart of the universe. And it creates this mixture of polarity that activates now chemical response and literally becomes a key that opens up doors to higher dimensional reality. And so I think we're modeling that no matter how unique the relationship looks. One person acts as universal mind, one acts as universal heart, even though we all have both. And we literally manifest together, just like individuals try to manifest. We together manifest higher realities that benefit all of mankind.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you said that, because over the last few podcasts, we've been talking about brain and heart, or mind and heart coherence. So again, it's popping up.
Absolutely. It's like the amplification of it.
Right. And I've always said that the mind, and we both teach us in different ways, that the mind, is not the problem. In some spiritual paths, we want to denigrate the mind. Oh, the mind. Oh, that mind, or the ego. But the mind acts the most unconsciously when separate from its beloved heart. And the heart acts most impulsively and unconsciously when it's separate from its beloved mind. And so when two soulmates, when beloved mind and beloved heart come together, we have the mind-heart connection, as if mind and heart are two parts of the same thing. And when those two seemingly separate things are whole, when mind and heart reunite, and then those two aspects drop into the gut of embodiment, and the gut is like the honeymoon suite where the mind and heart reconnect and rekindle their romance. When these aspects all come into full embodiment, that's when we have the alchemical reaction that creates an expansion on a planetary level that we often hear referred to as ascension. And so the mind is only as unconscious as its desire to find the beloved heart. The heart is only as unconscious as its need for the mind. And when they work together, just like human beings, when we cooperate instead of compete, when we work together, when we harmonize, when we make decisions based on what is best for us, not just two eyes trying to get their way, it changes the world we live in in a very, very radical way. And so I love that you said that. And it's the purpose of why all of this is being stated. It's time for the world to awaken. It's time for us to know the living fulfillment of what relationships can be. And it's time for us to come together and manifest divinity in physical form.
Yes.
Well, speaking about being on stage, you guys are going to be on stage at the Sedona Ascension Retreat in March. Is there anything else that you'll be presenting besides what we've been talking about today?
I think our focus is going to be on an expansion of this idea and to really give people a felt experience of what that might look like for them as whether they're in relationship or not, whatever love, wherever their journey is. We want to help them have an experience of this within them, that the coherence, the partnership of the mind and heart, but how to open themselves up to these 4 pillars. So we'll be doing that from stage, and we're also having an experience where we're taking people out into the Red Rocks so we can connect with them more personally for that experience.
Yeah, and I think that, the invitation is people hear about the 4 pillars of divine partnership. And so when you come together to join us in person, the question is, what would it feel like for you to taste divine partnership in your body, with your environment, with the universe, whether it's with a loved one or with your child, with your animals, with your parents, with a co-parent, with a current, with an ex? What would it be like to experience that oneness in a truly tangible way? Our work is about giving people experiences of that taste and creating doorways where people can do the work to move into that as a living reality. And so this event we're doing together is really one of the first steps of bringing divine partnership into the world. And again, we're both blessed to be here, and I'm so excited to be not just serving the world, but serving the world with my beloved as we serve the world together.
And can we just add one piece?
What's this?
This event is where we met last year.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Oh, that's great.
The 1-year anniversary of the exact place we met, at this breakfast pre-gathering for speakers. I walked into a room, saw half the speakers I already know. I'm like, hey guys, hey, what's up? And then I'm like, oh, who is this? And she knew who I was, but I didn't know. And actually, she had marketing material, and so I saw her picture when I was walking through the event. Went, who is this? Who's this lovely, lovely goddess? Anyway, let's go to this breakfast thing, and then we met. We sat down. The room disappeared, and that was the event we met at. And so it will be literally like the 1-year anniversary of exactly where we met. And here we are doing, we'll be sharing this together. And what an auspicious miracle and blessing that is. I mean, truly the universe is a humbling, miraculous, ridiculous ride.
Yeah.
Will you guys be married before then?
We will not be married before then, but shortly after.
But shortly after.
Shortly after we are getting married. Yes, we are getting married.
Yes.
And we are crafting that adventure, and
At an undisclosed location.
an undisclosed location. It's we are in the midst of planning our wedding, and we are very mindfully doing it in a way that celebrates. Like we were going to do a traditional wedding, and it didn't feel like us as much anymore. And we thought, you know what? Let's do it more like us. And it's actually feeling more fun.
Yeah.
And so I would say about that, isn't it a week after the thing?
Yeah, almost exactly.
Almost a week after the event will be in March, we are going to get married. And which is funny because I feel like I've been married to Joy since the day we met. So this is just making it official. And one of the proudest days of my life will be marrying this woman.
Me too. Come celebrate with us at the event. Yes.
Well, I was going to say, you got to get Suzanne to bring a cake or something and at least
Right?
make an engagement party.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
Yes.
Come to our engagement party.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Come join us.
Well, if people want to work with you guys or find out more about you, how should they do that?
Yeah, honey.
Great question. So right now you can actually reach us through either of our websites. either way will get to us. Our teams will make sure that's taken care of. And so either at matcon.org or joykingsborough.com.
Yeah, at each of our websites, you can sign up for Joy's newsletters. You can sign up for my Sunday newsletter. And in both ways, we're going to be sharing about what we're doing together in a very, we imagine there will be a time where we're going to create a joint creation where people can reach us at the same place.
Mhm.
But what we are very mindful about is that Joy is very much doing her individual work with her audience. I'm doing my individual work with my audience. Those audiences are getting to know each other, and we also want to create something compelling together. So for right now, if you go to joykingsborough.com, as you said, and matcon.org, you can reach us both and follow us both and follow this journey of two worlds becoming one. Truly.
As the we happens.
As the
we can witness the we coming together professionally.
Well, before we finish up, can y'all leave us with one last positive message?
Absolutely. I would say, I think we're at a point in history. I hope we're at a point in history where love can take on many forms. That yes, Joy and I are celebrating a romantic divine union together. And there are many who are watching this because they're being prepared for a divine union. Maybe they think they've already had and lost. They don't know they're prepared for. But I think the important thing is that whether we're talking about romantic partnership, we're talking about connection with our family, with friends, or with animals, or with the universe directly, is that love is the governing force of the universe. And while there's a purpose to why we all desire our relationships to look and be a certain way, none of us are ever void of love, even if it shows up in our life currently differently than the way we want it. So I think it's really important to focus on divine partnership as an opportunity to remember that you are always one with love, whether it looks the way you want it to look or it's life preparing you for something you'd have never expected.
Yeah. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait to feel the love of this divine world, this divine universe.
Well, thank you both for your messages. I wish you an amazing life together, and I hope to see you back again soon once your book is out.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.